150 pixels by 550 pixels. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. File new. Change that from inches to pixels. Don't forget to do that. 550. We're going to go ahead and leave it at 300. And I'm going to go ahead and change my background contents to white and create. And I'm going to start by zooming in here and unlocking my background. Double clicking on the background layer to do so. I'm going to Control tab over to my instructions here, and it says select the gradient tool and create a gradient scene in the diagram. The colors from the left are FF, which is white, and then that kind of medium lighter blue, and then a darker blue. Drag this gradient from the bottom upwards. Okay, so I'm going to need those numbers here in just a minute. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab the middle one just to save time. So I'm going to Control or Command C and then tab over to Photoshop and select my gradient tool, which is underneath my paint bucket tool, and click on the color picker and select in the left hand stop, click on that little dot there in the bottom and click the color. And I know this is going to be white, so I'm just going to drag all the way up to the left hand corner, and then I'm going to add a stop. So I'm just going to click right in there, and then I'm going to click on that stop again and then click on the color, and then here's where I'm going to paste that number that I just copied from the tutorial. I'm going to paste that into the number box on the color picker and click OK. And then I need to grab that darker blue, so I'm going to toggle over to our instructions and grab that dark blue. And I'm going to make sure my gradient looks similar to that, so I'm going to toggle back over and make sure that I nail that. So I'll click on color and then paste that in there. Boom, just like that. Okay, and if I remember right, these two items, let's see, we need to bring that, let's toggle over here. So we want right about in the middle, maybe a little less in the middle, about 40%, darker that way. So bring that there, drag this out this way to about like that. Let's double check that and see how close we are. Pretty close. I think we can probably call that good. Okay, and click OK. And then I'm going to take that from the bottom of my dock, drag it all the way up to the top. I'm going to hit the Shift key so I get a nice straight gradient in there. And boom, there we go. That looks pretty good. We got a nice little sky, dark sky up at the top, snow down there on the bottom. Okay, and my next piece is to create a snowball. So we're going to create a new layer and we're going to name it Snow Body. Select the gradient tool and create a radial gradient as shown in the diagram. The colors from left are white again, and a gray and white again. So we're creating a radial gradient, whites at the both ends, and then kind of a grayish in the middle. Draw a circular selection on Snow Body layer and fill in the gradient you have just created. Start the gradient from the top left side. Okay. So there's going to be a couple steps here that I'm going to toggle back and forth here on this. First one is I'm going to create a new layer down here in my layers panel. I'm going to go ahead and name this Snow Body. And the way they created this Snow Body was using the elliptical marquee tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the Shift Option key, and when I do that, Shift Option key or Shift Alt key, and when I do that, it's going to make a perfect circle from the center out. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a snowball about, let's go with that size right there. Okay, but then next we need to fill that with our gradient. So I'm going to click on the gradient tool again, and in fact, actually, let's try this. If I go Edit, Fill, I should be able to fill this with a gradient. Oh, it doesn't let me. I thought I could fill that with a gradient. Okay, let's try another way. Go back to our gradient tool. And again, I'm going to click on this stop over here, and that's going to be white. And then I need to toggle back over to my instructions, and I need to make sure that's a radial style gradient. And I need to grab this color right here, that gray color. And let's see here, gradient type. Hang on, I'll switch that when I get up to the top there. Okay, let's click on that color, and paste that into there. And we're going to kind of bring it this way a little bit, and let's check to see. Toggle over to our instructions here, and let's see here. It's going to be kind of right in that area, and these stops where it fades in and out are going to be a little bit longer to the left there than when I have mine. So I'm going to drag this out just a little bit, bring this over just a little bit more, something like that. And let's just go ahead and double check that one more time. Maybe a little more white in there than what I have. Bring this way. Oops, Control Z that. Didn't mean to grab that guy. Yeah, that's probably pretty close. Okay. And then up here where we have our gradient tool, I'm going to click the radial gradient selection. And then it says drag it from the left to the right. So we're going to do that inside the circle. So we're just going to grab left to kind of the right there. Something like that. Let's see if that worked out the way. Top left side, so it does. Yep, let's see. So it's kind of more like that angle. Let me see if I got my angle right. Yeah, that's pretty close. Okay, we'll go with it. Hit Command D to deselect. That way we have our ball, and now if you select that, you can see how that's going to work. Okay, and I'm going to toggle back over to our instructions, and then it says step 2B, select the snow body layer and go to Filter, Noise, Add Noise. Set the amount to 2, distribution to Gaussian, and check on monochromatic. Okay, so 2, Gaussian, monochromatic. So I'm going to go up to the filter, let's go noise there, noise, add noise. And we're going to set this to 2, and Gaussian, and monochromatic. And hit OK. There we go. All right, and tab over. Before I go any further, let's tab back over to my Photoshop document. Let's go ahead and save this real quick. So I'm going to go File, Save As. I'm going to go ahead and save this on my desktop to make it easy for you guys. And this is going to be snowman.psd. I'm going to go ahead and make a new folder on this. And this is going to be my 12 days of digital. And in that folder, I'm going to save that snowman PSD. Just in case. Always save as you go. Toggle back over. And now I need to create another snowball. It says 2C, create a new layer, name it as snowball head. Repeat step 2A and 2B with a slightly smaller circle on the snow head layer. So it appears to me that, so I could probably do this in 2 ways. I could do exactly that, repeat it, or I could copy this snowball layer and just resize it. So let's see how that's going to turn out. So if I hit my Alt key on the snow body layer and click and drag up, it's going to just duplicate that layer. And then what I can do from there is just resize it. And let's see how big I need to make it. Are we going to have 3 snowballs or just the 2? It looks like we're just going to have the 2. So I'm going to toggle back over. And I think I want to make this just a little bit bigger. That looks pretty good. Okay, and then I'm going to rename that. Instead of snow body copy, I'm going to make that the snow head. Okay, and then toggle back over to our instructions. So next we have the scarf, which I think is one of the harder steps of this tutorial. Create a new layer above the snow layers and name it as scarf. Using the pen tool, draw a general path of how of how your scarf will look like. So we kind of want this little loop. We're going to come back around, maybe create a little bit more of a pattern in here. So I'm going to toggle back over and create a new layer, and we're going to name this scarf. And then we're going to use the pen tool. So I'm going to click P and grab it. So that'll select the pen tool for me. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here a little bit. And so what I'd like to do, I think I need to move my snow head down just a little bit. Let's just bring it down just a tad. And come back to the scarf layer and click P again so I can draw my scarf. So let's see here. How should I start this? I'm going to toggle back over real quick and just kind of try to memorize this one more time. In fact, what I could try to do here is maybe bring my document over just a little bit and see if I can't try to replicate this a little bit. Okay, there we go. Kind of do something like that. Okay. So I think I'm going to start kind of right in about this area on the left-hand side of our snow body. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click 2 points. I'm going to kind of pick one right in the middle there. And then I'm going to click a point right in the middle. And then I'm going to press my Command key or your Windows key or Control. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend and twist that little loop there. And then I'm going to bring my next point up over here to the side. And it's going to be a straight point again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another point in the middle. And then I'm going to bend this guy kind of similarly. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to eliminate this point in the middle so it creates a fluid looking scarf. And you know, your scarf doesn't have to be exactly like the design, but try to get close. And you notice my points went away, so I'm going to hit Control-Alt-Z there. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit. Too much. And what I'd like to do is create some finer waves right into here. So I think from there, I'm going to put my point right in about there. And then I'm going to put 2 points in the middle. And what I'm going to do is just kind of make this look a little bit more round. Put in a couple little waves. Something like that. Make sure that it's over the snow ball or snowman part of it. So maybe one more point in the middle there. Kind of bring that out just like that. Something similar to that. Okay. Zoom out again. And so then I'm going to go ahead and come all the way over here and put in a point on the other side of the face, or on the other side of the snowball. And then I'm going to put a point in the middle. And I'm going to twist that down just a little bit. Kind of like so. Let's see here. Do I have it quite right? No. Oops. Control-Alt-Z there. Grab that. Kind of like that. Let's get rid of that guy right there. Kind of bring it up a little bit. There we go. That's looking more like our design. Maybe put one right into here. And then bend that just a little bit slightly smaller. So again, you don't have to make it look perfect. Although I'm trying. Really trying. Okay, and then I need to put in some points over here for the rest of my scarf. So I'm going to go ahead and put a point there and a point there. I'm not going to close it just yet. I'm going to go ahead and leave this one. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and take that little bend out. And I'm going to put in another bend here. So we kind of have like a very roundish looking end to this right here rather than kind of a pointed end. And then with this, I'm going to take that point out and then I'm going to add a new one so I can put in a little bit of a bend. Like so. And then I'm going to go ahead and take this one and connect it and drag it to the end. And then I'm going to put in another bend right in the middle and kind of do something like that. And I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit and double check, see where I'm at here. I think that's probably good enough. Perhaps this bend right here, we should connect that. So I did that, got that connected. And let's see, oops, Control-Z there. That's going to move the whole thing. Okay, we're going to go with that. We're going to give that a shot. So I'm going to go ahead and toggle over to our instructions real quick. Oh, I've already got it open. Sorry. Okay, so then it says click on Load Path as Selection button. Go back to Layers tab and select Scarf Layer. Fill in the selection with this color. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab that color now and Command-C or copy, Control-C there. And then what he means by that is we're going to, with the pen tool still selected, inside of our shape that we just created, we're going to right click and we're going to say Make Selection. So we'll have our marching ants come back, and then from here we're going to go Edit, Fill, and we're going to select Color, and it's going to bring up our color picker, and then we're just going to paste that color right in and click OK, and then click OK. And let's zoom out a little bit and see how we did. Control or Command D, and you know what? It's not too shabby. We'll take it. Okay. All right, so let's scroll down to our next step here. Step 3C, drawing scarf. Create a new layer and name it as Scarf Folds. Okay, so I'm going to do that. And Scarf, oops, got my caps lock. Scarf Folds. Use the lasso tool and draw the folds you want on the scarf. Use the soft brush tool of size 50 pixels and color numbered. Paint along the lower part of the selection. The selection will prevent you from painting any areas outside of it. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to use the lasso tool to contain parts of the brush that we don't want. This is going to be a tricky part, so you're going to have to play around with this quite a bit, I think, initially, to get it right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this kind of fold right in here, and although mine's not like that, I'm going to kind of mimic that as best I can. So I'm going to come up here and grab the lasso tool, which is the third tool down here. And essentially what we're going to do is we're just going to draw in kind of a spot where we want to put in that shadow. Okay, and then I'm going to grab the brush tool by clicking on B, and then I'm going to, let's see, Alt right click, and that's going to allow me to change my brush size. So let's see here. What I need is a soft brush tool of size 50 pixels and color. So we're going to do 50 pix. And then soft here, it doesn't tell us what type of softness to do. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go all the way down to 0 and see how that works. Okay, and then hit enter. So, and then from there, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the bottom part of this, and notice that it is coloring part of the snowman, which I think will be okay. If we don't want that, let's go ahead and Control-Alt-Z, and let's redraw our lasso. So go ahead and hit Command-D to get back there. Grab our lasso again, so click L. And so this time when I'm going to do this, I'm going to zoom in. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to outline the scarf so it prevents it from going above the scarf. And I'm going to follow that pathway kind of like right in there. And then I'm going to hit my B tool again. And then I'm just going to kind of color that in just like that. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit Command D. And I'm just going to continue around building in these folds with my brush. Okay, so you'll notice here, repeat step 3C with a few more folds on the scarf folds layer. You'll notice that this person started this way up here in the top, but it almost appears that we've got a little bit different action going on here. So what we're after is these kinds of shapes right in here to where we can create these kinds of folds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the lasso tool again. What I'm going to try to recreate is this kind of scenario in here. Notice it's a little bit darker over here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with that section here, and I'm going to kind of create this little loop-de-loop like that. And just kind of fill in there, and then click on my B tool again, click on B, and I'm just going to color in. I need to make my window just a little bit bigger, so I'm going to go ahead and pull my window. I'm going to minimize that real quick and then pull my window over so I can have a little more room. There we go. And then just kind of fill that in there. Maybe a little bit darker. Okay, and hit Command D. And, you know, I kind of want to make sure I get that bottom section right in there. So what I'm going to do here is make sure that I'm going to control click on scarf on the scarf layer. So it's only the scarf layer right there. And you're going to see my marching ants just only get on the scarf layer. But I want to make sure that my clicked or my scarf folds layer is selected. So then what I'm going to do is just kind of color in that edge just a little bit more. And maybe color in this edge just a little bit more. Okay, and then Command D to get rid of that. I'm going to go back to my lasso tool, so I'm going to hit the L key. And I'm going to go ahead and bring this back a little bit again, and then bring back my window. So I'm kind of trying to mimic this little bend. So what I'm going to do with my lasso tool is I'm just going to follow the design of my scarf that I've made and terminate it right into there. And then I'm going to bring it back and bring it back this way and terminate it there. Okay, we're going to give that a shot. Click the B tool, and let's go ahead and color that in just a little bit. Obviously, this person had a little more practice than I did, so I'm going to need to go back here and Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Command D to deselect. I'm going to redo my fold here. So I think I'm going to really do a nice deep thing like this, and then I'm going to come back up around like this. I'm going to do this in parts. I'm going to grab my brush, get like kind of a nice fold going on in here, and then Command D. Man, maybe I should change my brush size. Let's kind of zoom out a little bit and see how that's looking. You can kind of see what's going on. Command Z, Control Z. This is going to take a little bit of practice, I think. So bear with me. Grab my lasso tool again. Come down this way. Kind of terminate it. Come back. Make that really thin. Make this a little bit bigger. Come back this way. Okay, let's give that a shot. Go back with my brush tool, and I'm just going to really go right on the edge here of that section. And then I'm going to make it a little bit deeper right in there. And then edge again. And then let's go ahead and Command D to see how that looks in my fold. Zoom out. We're getting closer. It's not perfect, and that's okay. I think I'll have to live with something that's not quite perfect, although I don't want to. Trust me on that. I could go in and maybe delete some of that out with the eraser tool. So, oops, maybe I come in again. Let's go ahead and zoom it out so I'm not so... Grab my eraser tool, and let's go ahead and soften that up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control Option, and then I'm going to, so it's Control Option or Control Alt, and then I'm going to right click. Dang it, never mind. Okay, it's at hardness 0, which is what I wanted. I want to feather this. I just kind of want to take out part of that top part so it just doesn't have so much permanence. There we go. That's a little bit better. I can live with that. Maybe take out that little bit there, feather that in there just a little bit better. There we go. Come in here. Oops. Control Z that action. Let's go and zoom in. Let's go ahead and option there. Let's reduce our size. Kind of maybe clean that up a little bit right in there. Kind of give it a little more rounded shape. Now that really looks like I got something going on here. So I'm going to kind of just clean that up right in between there. Okay. Probably getting a little too... Yeah. Need to make that even smaller. So Alt, right click. So you can see how I'm playing around with this. Just going to kind of clean up some of that little bit of a stray soft brush that got in there. So you can really see those folds come in. Okay, let's see, how's that look? A little better. We're getting there. Okay, so this is something you're going to have to play with a lot and do something that makes you feel good about. Just play around with the feathering of that brush and those folds. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this perfect either, but I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to go ahead and attempt to get in some more of these folds in here, and it almost appears as if they changed the brush size a little bit and really focus on some darker stuff right in there, kind of coming down into this area and coming down up in here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my lasso tool again, and I'm going to mirror this fold right in here, and then I'm going to come back around like that and connect it. And this time with this brush, what I'm going to do with my brush, I'm going to click on my brush tool again, and then Alt right click, and I'm just going to reduce the size down to something smaller. And what I'm hoping to do here is just really get in a small part there. There we go. That works for me. So Control D that. That looks pretty good right in there, I think anyway. I'm going to go ahead and grab my lasso tool, so click the L key again. And in fact, what I'm going to do this time also is I'm going to grab, let's just go ahead and kind of play, kind of go along that edge there. And I just want something that highlights this corner right in there. So I'm going to grab my brush tool again, and I'm going to do the same thing with that same brush. And just kind of lightly get into that corner. Maybe darken it just a little bit more, so go over it one more time. Okay, Control D. Let's go ahead and zoom out here a little bit. Yeah. Hey, look at that. Looks semi-okay. And, there seems to be a little bit of a shadow coming up underneath the scarf, which is probably pretty important. So I'm going to go ahead and click back over here and zoom back in. And grab my lasso tool. And I'm going to kind of do the same thing that I did with the bottom there. I'm just going to go ahead and go all the way and connect it to the other shadow that I had and just make it really thin. Something like that. Grab my brush tool again, click the B key, and then just really get right in underneath that fold. I'm going to go ahead and back over it again, darken it up. Control D, see how that looks. Let's see, let's kind of zoom out a little bit and see how that's going to look. I think that's too much, too dark. So I'm going to Control Z, zoom back in. We go ahead and Alt, right click, change my brush again to that 50 pixel size. And I'm just going to kind of try to get in just real lightly. There we go. Let's see how we look. Control D, Command D. Yeah, I think that could work. It's a little dark. Let's go ahead and Command Z again. Command Alt Z. Zoom back in. I'm going to go ahead and Control D. And what I want to do is I'm going to grab my lasso tool again. I'm going to follow the same scarf pattern, but this time I'm going to go ahead and expand it just a little bit more this time than when I had it. grab my brush tool, so click B, and just kind of click in those areas real lightly with a light touch. Control D, and I want to kind of fill in that area there, so I'll grab my lasso tool again. I just kind of want to localize it right in there, kind of fill in that area, just like that. Grab my brush tool, just want to get that little spot right in there. Oops, too much. Too much. Okay, Control D, grab my lasso tool. I need to make sure that I'm staying in that area. There we go. Grab the brush tool and just click on the top there so it kind of fills in. Command D, zoom out and see how we did. I dig it. I dig it. I think, let's see, probably with some more playing, I could probably get in some more subtle like folds in there. Maybe like kind of bring something in over here. Let's go ahead and do that. And then I say for this tutorial, we'll call it good. Maybe you'll get the opportunity to make yours look just a little bit better than mine. So I'm going to kind of play around this area and connect those two together. So, and then I'm going to go ahead and stick with the same brush that I was using, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to make sure, there we go. And we can kind of darken that area right in there, Control D. And let's see how that looks. Okay, so now we're going to work on the cap of our snowman. And in step 4, it says create a new layer and name it as snow cap. And then it says repeat step 2A, except for different gradient colors. And then also step 2B. And then we'll come in and delete out part of that. So what I'd like to do is first I'm going to go ahead and scroll back up and show what 2A and 2B is. That was the creating the snowballs part of the tutorial. So, and then I'm going to come back down and I'm going to try another way first and then see if that works. And if this doesn't work, then I'm going to go ahead and do it as the tutorial recommends or shows us. So I'm going to click back over here into Photoshop and I'm going to select Snow Head, and then I'm going to grab the Move tool, which is the V tool, V as in Victor. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate this layer. So I'm going to right click on Snow Head and duplicate that layer. And then I'm going to rename it as Snow Cap. And then from there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, because we need to get it to be those red colors, what I want to do is see if I can create a gradient overlay and essentially do that same step, but I'm just basically just copied that circle and I'm just going to change the colors as to what the tutorial asks from us. So we know that this is a radial gradient and I need to click in here to get our colors set up. So I'm going to grab those colors. So I'm going to grab that first color from the tutorial and I'm going to copy that and then click on the stop and then click on the color box and then paste that in there and click OK. And then I need to add the second color, so I'm going to go ahead and just click on that color stop, and then again click on the color box, and then copy and paste the number that the tutorial provided for me, and Control C or Command C, and then Command V or Control V, click OK, which is kind of a dark color, and then I'm going to grab that last color on the end, click on the stop, and then paste that color number in there. So I definitely want to make some adjustments to this gradient. I'm going to click over here real quick and come back to where that gradient adjustment was that it said in the tutorial. If you look at it, the stop is all the way over here for the black. So I'm going to go ahead and move that direction. And I'm not sure how I want to do the black in the middle. So I'm going to come back to the tutorial here and take a look at where that black is setting up. It looks as if it's kind of in the back there, kind of towards the back. So let's see here. Let's bring it this way. For some reason we're not getting... I'm going to go ahead and bring this out here. Go ahead and click OK. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change the angle of that gradient. There we go. Kind of that left to right angle that we were doing before. That makes a little more sense. And then I'm going to go ahead and double click on this again, and I'm going to go ahead and mess with the direction there. Kind of take a look at what's going on. Yeah, I'm wondering if we need to go that way with it. Oh, it doesn't change much. Okay, we're going to stick with that kind of angle there. Click OK. Let's see here. Come back to this. Maybe dial this back just a little bit. Oops. Control C. There we go. Dial this one back just a little bit. Oops. Control C. Okay, I'm going to give this a shot and see if I can make this work. Click OK. The cool thing is I can come back and edit that gradient again. So I'm going to go ahead and do this step part right now, which is the elliptical marquee tool. And I'm going to position this. And in fact, what might be helpful to see the shape of what we're trying to do here, I'm going to go ahead and drop the opacity of this layer. And see what I'm kind of going for is that shape right there. And so I'm going to go ahead and redo my elliptical shape. Wish I could turn it just a little bit. So if I change to the move tool, I can kind of, nope, don't want to do that. It's going to take it out. Don't apply. See what I'm trying to do, we need to kind of get more fatter on this side and a little bit lighter, thinner on that side. So I'm going to redo my elliptical marquee. Start out here. Make this nice and big. Come this way with it. There we go. That's kind of the look I'm looking for right in there. And then I think we just hit delete. Now my gradient is changing because of the gradient overlay. So that's why we have to do it the other way. See how my overlay changed? I'm going to go ahead and bring the opacity back. See that? It's because of that gradient overlay. So if I Control Alt Z here and bring this all the way back up, what I need to do is rasterize this layer with the effect to get what I needed to do. So I'm going to go ahead and rasterize that layer style. So now when I delete my circle, it'll stay that way. So Control D or Command D there, and there we go. There we go. I got my hat. Not perfect, but it'll do. It'll do for now. I'm not sure how they got this to work in terms of the gradient part of it in that hat the way they did. Maybe they did it a little slightly different than how we were doing it, but I think it'll work for this for the time being. And so next I need to create a new layer and name it as eyes. Draw 2 simple circles and fill them with 0. Right click on the eyes layer and choose blending options. Activate drop shadow and set its opacity to 30%, distance to 3, and size to 0. Leave the rest settings as default. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and
sketching out the footprint in 1/8 scale of the tech center. So I started with File New.
Grab my marquee tool.
And I'm doing.
In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the shape tool instead. We're going to use the ellipse tool. We're going to fill it with black.
I really don't care about the perspective.
Stroke 0.
Right, because this is the footprint that's looking down.
Fill black.
So if you
Fill
are.
black. There we go. And next we're going to do the same Shift Alt, Shift Option, Shift click, and drag our eyeballs there. Oops, Command Z. I let go of the Shift key before I let go of my mouse. Let go of the mouse. There we go. And then let's duplicate those layers. So grab your move tool and then hit your option key. You might have to zoom in a little bit and then hit your alt or option key, so then you can duplicate that layer just like that. And I'm going to go ahead and grab those two and move them just slightly over, just about like right there. Okay, and then from there, go back to our instructions here. It says draw two simple circles, fill them with cereal, right click on the eyes layer and choose blending options. So what's cool about this is from an older tutorial. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go to effects and drop shadow, and it tells us that we need to do activate drop shadow and set its opacity 30%, distance to 3, and size to 0. Leave the rest of the settings as default. So I'm not sure if that's going to totally work. So what I'm going to do is set that to 30%. Change the angle as to kind of the way it looks like in the tutorial. And let's see here. Distance to 3 and size to 0.
Hold your shift key, click. So you're going to continue this all the way around. Putting your
There we go.
in.
And let's see, I'm not sure what the spread
After you're done with that,
number should be. So we're just going to go ahead and leave it at 20%. I'm going to go ahead and change this to black so it's a little bit darker.
And this gives you horizontal.
And let's see here. How are we kind of looking?
So you got to click 2 points so that it measures. So I want
Change that
point,
maybe just a little bit more. Too
this
far.
point. Now it knows what your measurement is, and then I'm going to draw that out and hit enter. Oops, excuse me. And click.
I think that 130 was just about right. Let's go 135.
Now
Okay, click OK, and then we're going to do the same thing for the other eye.
You're going to go back and use the
Drop shadow, and those settings should be just the same, so you just click OK. Okay, we got our 2 eyeballs, and then next we are going to draw the nose. And in fact, let's see, did we miss a step here? Notice that there is now a drop shadow on the hat. And that drop shadow missed a step there. So, don't see it in the step. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click on that hat, snow cap. And let's go ahead and add a drop shadow to the snow. Oops, not outer glow. Check that. Drop shadow. There we go. Let's kind of see what we got going on here. I think we're going to need to change the angle of that. Okay, for this one we need to uncheck global light, so that way it's not applying. We need to cancel that. Okay, get out of there, come back, drop shadow. Let's make sure that global light is turned off, and then we can mess with our positioning of this. There we go, that looks a little bit better. Wondering if he did a different type of step than we did here. Let's see, change that angle just a little bit. Sometimes it's easier just to go in and just draw your own drop shadow in there. Let's just go ahead and stick with that. Let's go to minus out here and check out what we got, see how we're looking. I think we can probably live with that. It's not perfect, but it's okay. Okay. We're going to zoom back in and come back to our instructions. Now we're going to draw the nose. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. Nope. It's interesting. This picture has the drop shadow, and then it disappears. So I'm wondering if he decided that, or she decided that they're going to do a drop shadow and then changed their mind. Well, the good thing is we can always turn that drop shadow off if we don't like it. For now, I'm going to leave it on just because I kind of like it. So from here, we're going to draw the nose. Create a new layer, name it as nose. Using pen tool, draw a cone, shape, path. You will need to convert point tool to adjust the edges a little. So we kind of want a little bit of a pointy nose and some rounded action there. So, oops. Click over here, zoom in. Use the spacebar tool to move around a new document without moving stuff around that you don't want to move around. We're going to go ahead and make a new layer right there. I'm going to go ahead and name this nose. And I probably should do a better job of my eyeballs here. So this is going to be left eye. And this one's going to be right. Oops, got my caps locks on. Right eye. Okay. Okay. Nose. Okay. Going back to our pen tool. Let's kind of bring this up here and see if we can't keep that in our view there to kind of replicate that as best we can. So we are going to start with the top right corner there. And we're going to come out here. And then we're going to come out here. And then we're going to go ahead and complete the path. And then, but before we go, we're going to add a point right into the middle there. And then I'm going to zoom in, kind of show you what I'm doing. Use the Control or Command key, and then make that a cone. Let's see, is that good size nose? Yeah, why not? We'll stick with it. We can always make an adjustment to this, just a little bit longer. Let's go with that, a little bit longer. Okay, next it's going to say, go to the Paths tab and make the cone path as a selection. Back to the Layers tab, and on the nose layer, fill it with a linear gradient, starting with. I found the nose is too sharp, so I made it blunt by drawing a small circle at the tip and erase the excessive portion. So we could probably do this without. So if we take that point out, actually let's Control Z that. If we add 2 points in the middle and then take out the one in the middle, okay, Control Z. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Won't let me go any further. Let's go ahead and take that little point out. So then I can take these handles. Actually, tell you what. Let's go back and do a Control Z action here. I'm going to do something a little different here. I'm going to make 2 points this way. I'm going to make it like a flat nose. And then I'm going to put a point in the middle like that. There we go. Now we got more of a round nose. And then move that out just a little bit. Move that out just a little bit. Put a point in the middle. Oops, Control Z. Control. Bring those together. Point in the middle. And then round that out just a little bit. Make our cone. And then I'd like to make that just a little bit bigger. Bring these out. Uh-oh. Getting a really funky shaped nose. But you know what? Carrots are funky shaped anyway. That'll work for me. Let's go ahead and bring those out just a little bit. Ah, shoot. Control Z. Ah. There we go. Close enough. We're going to call that good. Okay. Next we need to right click on that and make selection. Click OK. This is going to turn out pretty pixelated at first. So let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit. And then we need to fill this with 2 gradient colors. Looks like it's kind of a couple of orangey colors, and it's a linear gradient. So we're going to go to our linear gradient tool, click on that, and in one stop it's going to be this color. Paste that in there, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this stop, so delete that, and then in this stop grab that, and it's this color. Control C, and then Control or Command V, click OK. Click OK. And we're going to go from bottom to top up this way. Oops. Control C that. We're still on a radial gradient setting up here, so change that back to a linear. And then use the space or the shift bar to draw a straight gradient up there. Looks like I got it backwards. Control Z. We're going to go from the top bottom. So click and drag down with the shift key. Boom. Just like that. Okay. Let's kind of zoom out a little bit and see what we got. I like that. I dig it. Not quite the same, but whatever. It's all good. Looks like the point is going up a little bit too. So let's go ahead and make that adjustment. So grab your move tool and then just go ahead and turn it just a little bit. And let's see. I like that. That looks better. Okay, and then next we're going to do a little drop shadow with that, but we're going to have to make this one. So it says, create a new layer below nose and name it as nose shadow. Using the polygonal lasso tool, create a triangle selection and fill it with black. Set the opacity of the nose shadow layer to 20%. So right below the nose layer, so I'm going to click on snow cap, in fact, because that's the layer below nose for me. And I'm going to click the new layer, nose shadow. Hello. Okay, and then I'm going to take that polygonal lasso tool. So where the lasso tool was polygonal, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in just a little bit. And it looks like it's kind of going this direction. So I'm going to kind of make it shorter. Because oftentimes, well, sometimes shadows are longer, sometimes they're shorter. So just try to make this look like, no. If you mess up, close it and then Control D and then get back out. So I'm going to angle that down just a little bit more. Kind of like that. And then complete the path right there. Don't worry about it going over the top of the nose. Since this layer is below the nose layer, it should go underneath it. And then we're going to go up to Edit, Fill. And we're going to change that from color to black. Just go ahead and click OK. And then that's where we're going to drop the opacity of that down to 20%. Looks pretty good. So if I zoom out, I think my angle is off. Look at my eyeballs. My eyeballs are at a steeper angle. So let's see if I can fix that. Just come up here, grab the move tool, so hit the V key. And let's go ahead and see if this doesn't work for us just like that. Are we close? Pretty close. Just a little bit more. Tuck it underneath the nose just a little bit more. Maybe move it down just a little bit. There we go. That's better. Let's go ahead and zoom out and see how we did. It does match the shadow a little bit. It's a little funky. I think maybe we moved it too much. So let's go ahead and Control Z that. And Control Z, grab our move tool again. Select that nose shadow. I'm just going to turn it just a little bit more. Maybe not as much. Hit the enter return key to accept those changes. Yeah, it looks a little bit better, but now I think it's not low enough, so I'm just going to select it and then just hit my down arrow just one little bit, and there we go. I think that's good. That's pretty close. Okay, kind of zoom out, kind of see how we're doing here. Looks pretty good. Okay. All right, now we're on to the creating the fur balls, which will be like a little earmuffs and for a top hat thing. So I'm going to go ahead and save where I'm at right now and come back to it. So for the next step, step 7A, creating fur ball, these are going to be little fur balls that go on top of the hat and little earmuffs. We're going to use the brush tool to do this, and we need to change that. We're going to use a textured type brush. So it says select the dune grass brush from one of the default brush presets, and then open up the brush palette and key in the settings shown on the left. So on your brush tool up here, click on the little icon up here. That's your brush palette. And where we're going is we're going to the brush presets, And what you're looking for is this one right here. It's the dune brush. It's number 112. And then click back over to brush. And so these are the settings that we need to key in according to our tutorial here. So right here on the roundness jitter, that's 19%. On the angle jitter, that is 100%. There we go. So you can kind of see how that's changing right there in the dialog box. Okay. And then in scattering, click on that guy, and let's see here. That's at 96 or 98, and that's also at 56. It looks like everything there is, and there's 4. Looks like we don't need to change anything there. And then we're going to color dynamics. And so here we have off, 100%, 3%, 0%, 0%, 0%. And then last but not least, other dynamics. Let's see, I'm wondering, don't see that in our list here. So let's check these guys. Oops. Smoothing is on. Well, I'm guessing, hopefully that doesn't really matter. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into there. And so create a new layer and name it as furball. So we're going to make sure we put this, I'm going to go ahead and bring this to the very top where my scarf folds are. Actually, where is my snow cap? There we go. I'm going to look for my snow cap layer, and then I'm going to create a new layer there. And then this one is going to be called fur ball. Okay, and then it says set the foreground color to that, and then brush size to 20. Then start to paint a fur ball on the layer by going round and round a point continuously until you get a fur ball with size similar to mine in the diagram. So duplicate another 3 fur balls. That's step 7F. Resize and position them like the ones on the left. Okay. So I'm going to change my brush size here to 20 and set my foreground color. I'm going to come over here to my little color picker here, and then I'm going to take that color that he provided us with, which is that 9B color, Control C or Command C, and paste that into that color box. Okay, and then it says to basically from there then start to paint a fur ball on the layer by going round and round a point continuously until you get a fur ball with size similar to mine in the diagram. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and zoom in just a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and start. There we go. Check that out. Looks pretty cool, but it's definitely kind of got some white in it instead of the black. So I'm wondering if there's a part of this that we missed. So let's go ahead and Control Z that. Let's open up our brush preset again, our brush palette, and let's see what we're missing. I'm wondering if it's in color dynamics. Let's check that. Don't see anything that is any different. I'm wondering if we need to switch our foreground color to, or background color to black. So let's do that. So I'm changing my background color. See right there, I just clicked on that box and changed it to black. And so I've got my brush selected here. So I'm just going to go ahead and, yeah, that's what it was. Boom. Got it. Just kind of making a little bit of a fur ball there. I like it. I dig it. Let's see here. Let's look at our instructions here, and it says duplicate another 3 fur balls from the layer you have just drawn, resize and position them like the ones on the left. So if I'm happy with that little fur ball, which I think I'll be good with that, I'm just going to go ahead and click on my move tool, use the Alt key, and then click and drag that over. And I'm going to need to bury that a little bit. So I'll show you what I'm going to do with that here in just a sec. I'm going to put that right about there. And where my layer is over here on the side, I'm going to move that behind the head, the snow head there, and kind of position it like that, kind of tuck it in there as if the angle is correct. Okay, and then go ahead and turn that around a little bit, and just so it looks just a little different. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and rename that furball copy as furball. That's like the right ear, so I'm going to go right ear, and then furball left ear. And then I'm going to copy this one more time. So I'm going to hit the Alt key with my move tool and then click and drag this up above to our little beanie. And I'm going to rotate this just slightly so it kind of gets a... And let me see. I think I want to position this behind the cap as well. So where's the cap? I'm going to move this layer down. I'm going to hit Enter Return to accept those changes. I'm going to go ahead and rename this as furball cap, and then I'm going to move this behind the cap layer. I know it doesn't necessarily appear that way there, but I think that'll do. Kind of right about in there. I might rotate it just a little bit. Okay, and then this same, look, you'll notice here that says he also put one right in there on the scarf, which sure, why not? Let's do that too. So let's go ahead and just take that same layer there on and hit the Alt key, and then drop that in. We're gonna have to move that layer above the scarf, so that's gonna go all the way to the top, above the scarf folds, and we're just gonna go ahead and put it. I don't know. What do you think? Kind of put it right in there. That looks pretty good. Let's make sure we rename that scarf, furball scarf. Okay, and here we go. So then we're done with that step 7 there. Lots of little fur balls, and then it's we got step 8, adding snow dust. Create a new layer and name it as snow dust. I have a feeling we're gonna have to do this on the very top of everything, so I'm gonna make sure I'm on the top layer of my layers panel where I have furball scarf. I'm gonna go ahead and add a new layer there, and we're gonna name this as snow dust. Okay, so create a new layer, select the dry brush from one of the default brush presets. Click on that. Oh, I don't have my brush tool selected, so let's click the B key and then select brush presets, and we are looking for one of the dry brush. So let's see here. Let's see, what did he select? Did he give us a number for that? Nope. It's watercolor, 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 airbrush, airbrush, salty. Let's see here, what's that one? Do our little hover action. Oh, those are grunge, I know that. We got some of the faux there, some of the grasses. Let's see. What's that one? Spatter, spatter. We are looking for the dry brush. Let's go all the way to the top here and let's see if we can find what we're looking for. Those are like pencils, watercolor, flat angle, watercolor, salty, airbrush, airbrush. Those are leaves. It's a sponge, charcoal, chalk. There's a dry brush. Dry brush, light flow, dry brush. Uh-oh, where'd it go? Dry brush, right there. Dry brush 90. Nope, it still didn't select the right one. Let's see here. Sorry about that. That's the one we want. Okay. We're going with 39 there. We can always light flow. Okay, we're going to try to stay with that one and see what happens. And then set the foreground color to white and 30 on the brush size, and paint some snow and dust on the cap and fur balls. Okay, here we go. So change that to 30. And just kind of see what happens here. Oops, let's Control Z that because I used the red. So we need to reset their foreground and background there. So I just clicked that little tiny icon and then switch the little arrows there. So we have foreground in white. There we go. So let's click this a couple times. Spatter some fur snow in there. And you have to click quite a bit. In fact, if we open our brush preset here at brush, I'm sorry, that's not what I want. Hit the Alt right key. We can turn our brush so it'll go a little different direction. Okay, do that. Here we go. And sprinkle just a little bit on top. Oops. Control Z that. Okay, I'm going to hit the Alt Control key and then right click. Wrong keys again. Just going to reduce that size just down a little bit so then I can get in there on that top of that fur ball there and not spread too much around. Kind of do that there. Gonna go on the fur ball here. I want to make this a little bit bigger. Control Z that, didn't mean to do that. Go back to our snow dust layer. Go back to 30. Okay, there we go. Kind of do that a couple times, and I'm just clicking is all I'm doing. Getting that spatter in there. We'll go ahead and turn our brush around just a little bit. There we go. Oops, Control Z that real quick. To pitch the spacebar, move that around. Okay, let's check it out. Let's see, we got, oh, forgot some snow dust here on our, oops, on the wrong layer. Go back to our snow dust there. And let's go ahead and get that on there on the, you know what? Let's Control Z that, Control Alt Z that a couple times. I want to make sure that I don't go beyond that cap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Control click or Command click on the snow cap and then go back to my layer, make sure I'm on my snow dust layer. And I'm just going to click in here so that way it doesn't go outside. Let's go and zoom out a little bit and see how we're looking. Pretty killer. Okay. I think we can move on from here.
Hey, after I take a roll, I'm going to blank your screens here, talk at you for a second.
Okay, so I did that. Okay, so I use brush tool with color FFF, paint a wavy. Oh, I'm not there yet. Okay. I got the snow dust. Now, step 9, adding snow floor. Create a new topmost layer and name it as snow floor. Use brush tool with color FFF, paint a wavy floor at the bottom of the snowman. Then set the foreground color to CCC and add in some shadows to it. So it looks like we got some shadow action going in right in here. I'm going to add a new layer above our gradient there for our background. I'm just going to call this snow. And I'm going to take my shift key and my paintbrush and I'm just going to kind of go across. So I create more of that solid snow color that he's got. And then I'm going to come over here to our snow floor layer and change my brush size. Okay. Kind of want to go up and around. Kind of something like that. And then he just takes a real light brush. Just kind of make that just a little bit more round right in there.
This is half of a heart.
I think I could probably take my eraser tool and let's go ahead and increase that size a little bit. Let's kind of just clip away. No, that's not what I want to do. Too soft. Let's go 50 pixels.
next one, Control V.
And then clip away at that. There we go. Kind of get more of a round look. There we go. I like that. I like that a little bit better. Okay, so next and it's almost like it's a different layer. So let's do that. Let's do some type of shadow. Snow, shadow. And let's kind of just put that behind it. That's way better. Okay, too much on that side. I like that. Kind of like highlight that little section there. Maybe put in a little shadow there. It's not going to show, is it? Maybe like right there. Let's go ahead and go back and maybe take away some of that right in there. Too much. Too much hardness there. Let's go ahead and delete that all out. Get rid of that. Let's come back to our brush here again. And let's just kind of go in there nice and light. Kind of accentuate that little bit of a mound there. In fact, what I might... Let's experiment with this a little bit. Where my snow body is, I'm going to create a new layer right above that. I'm going to do another snow shadow layer. And I'm just going to kind of lightly highlight right behind. Let's see how that looks. Let's kind of Control Z out. Maybe not as much on that one. Let's see. Let's do the undo the eyeball. I think maybe if it was just a little bit smaller. So let's Control, click on that layer. Visible first, and let's delete it. And then Control D. Wait, let's go inside. Let's go ahead and just grab our eraser tool. Let's go ahead and get rid of that on that layer. Click back on our brush tool. Let's just do it underneath, just so slightly. Just right behind it, just a little bit tiny, or like little top of that is just going to poke up just a little bit. There we go. There is an option on the bottom of this where you can add some snowflakes as to kind of create that, you know, like snowing effect, and it's just pretty easy to do that by using the brush tool and changing brush sizes and density and stuff like that. So you can start off with, say, maybe a couple of snowflakes that are maybe a little bit larger than the others. Let's try like a 25 pixel. Nah, too large. Let's go 20 pixel. And if you set the flow or set the opacity to 100% there, you know, these might be kind of the ones in your foreground, and you just click a couple times. And actually, hold on, I got ahead of myself here, and my color is off too. It's in a gray, so we need to bring out a new layer. So where my snow floor is, I'm going to create a new layer there, and we're just going to call this snowflakes, and reset my color there, and put white in the foreground there, and you just kind of make some dots just like that, and depending on how many times you click, we'll make the dots a little more dense than in other ones, and just play with the size on those. You make 15 and then drop down some opacity there to like 40 or 30 or whatever, and you just start putting in little random flakes coming down. And you can also play around with the color. You notice that he's got some blues in there. So instead of, you know, white, you can pick like a really light blue, something like in that realm, and you kind of get more of that effect of snow coming down there. So just play around with that, different sizes and of your brush, and different patterns and things like that, and create a cool little snow effect. And that'll round out the end of this tutorial.